Okay. I guess that's enough messing around with downloading a bajillion files. So, no stream beats. All right. Let's take a look at where we were. Hopefully this download is not tanking my internet. Hopefully. Should be done in 2 or 3 minutes. Let's see. Last time we built up this enemy picker guy. So start the night with a nice loading bar. All right. So randomly picks a guy, shoots the camera over. All right. Let's turn that lerp down real quick. That's the biggest thing that is sticking out at this point. Ooh, it's still pretty fast. 99. Maybe? Did we break it? I think we broke it. Yeah. Or did I go the wrong way? We'll go the other way. Let's get another test in there. Skeleton. Yep, went the wrong way. All right, let's jump this up to 5. That's a little better. All right, this will be the good test. Yeah, that's good. 0.05. That transitions nicely. All right. Pop open my design doc. See what else we have to do. We got a board, some enemies. All right, player rolls a die. We could do a die, but I think we're just randomly picking one for now. We could up it to be, either you get, 1 space, 2 space for 1, 2 space, 3 space, do this kind of thing. That seems like something we could push off till later. Everything moves 1 right now. Let's do this. Let's if a monster stops on a player, the player can't move until the monster moves off them. And then the special card will have to come later once we do the special card. So if a monster is on top of a player when it's that player's turn, they don't get a turn, right? They get skipped at this point because we don't have anything to get them out of that situation. All right, zoom to our board, which is nothing at this time because we instantiate everything at runtime. Let's take a look at our code. In our game, we are building up the board. So this builds up our board. We say player 0 goes first, instantiate our 4 players, set up our enemies, set up our names, instantiate the enemies, and then we start the do turns. So we do it in this code routine. So the first thing is we move an enemy. Then we say, okay, player move that enemy, move the camera to that enemy, and then the players whose turn it is gets to move that enemy, right? So once that happens, we're going to go here. So we say, now it's that player's turn, and then we do the move for the player to try the move. But let's check, is the player covered by a monster, and skip their move. And then later we'll implement player can play a card to move, to escape. This is an escape game, right? Future. Cool. So we have a list of enemies. So easy peasy. We should just be able to iterate the list of enemies and see if they're on the same square as the player, right? Let's for each over them. Let's do the stupid way. For each enemy in enemies, if enemy dot, what do we put this as? There's a component there. Do we just have the enemies as game objects, right? If enemy dot transform dot position is the same as the player's current player. Players player turn dot transform dot position, and this is this is not great, because like these do get set explicitly, right? They get set to the explicit world position of the board cell that they're on. Later on, you know, maybe the animation might bump it, or if we had physics or something. This can get us in trouble later, but this is easy, simple for now. So if they're the same, we're gonna, you know, let the player know they can't move, right? And then, you know, move on with their lives. Otherwise, we'll let them move. Do a little formatting. Close that guy up. All right, how can we let the player know? How can we let the player know? Let's do a little pop-up, right? Let's just be like, say, you know, hey, you're stuck. Oh no. And I think I'm gonna put it in the same spot as this guy. So I'm just gonna Control D that and say notification. Oh, that is not spelled right. Text. Notification text right there in the middle. Be like, you're stuck. You're too scared to move. Ooh, flavor text. Look at that. So it goes, you're too scared to move for like a second or two, right? And then it fades out, and the game moves forward. So we need to link that notification text to our game. We have all of these guys here. Public TMP text, notify text. Like I got around having to spell that correctly. Boop, boop, boop. Where is that guy? All right, let's stick this in a coroutine, right? Yield, return, start coroutine, notify player stuck. Bam. Alt enter, create the method. This is an I enumerator and needs some code. So we need notify text dot enabled. So enabled equals true. And then we're going to turn it off, right? Notify text enabled equals false. And then just right there in the middle, you'll return new, wait for seconds. Do you think a second is long enough? I think a second's going to be long enough. Yeah. So pop up for a second. You're too scared to move. And then next player. Otherwise, you get to move. So let's go hook that up and see if it works. Yeah, like under 10 minutes in, and we get a feature in. Nice. We need our game manager, and there is our notify text. Notify text. Give her a play. Oh, forgot to turn this off at the start, but that's okay. We'll pretend. We'll pretend it's not enabled. Let's move the ghost there. Let's move this player. We'll move player 1 onto the ghost, so now they're the same. We gotta move the ghost again. All right. We're gonna move the ghost. Something weird just happened. Something very weird just happened. Yeah, why do I get to move twice? So yeah, something's messed up. So the ghost. Oh, I think the ghost is here. Nope, ghost is there. Why do you get to move twice? 10 minutes in and we broke it. Perfect. All right, debug time. Boop. Let's see. For each. Oh, yep. So every enemy gets to move. That's it. So we do this twice. If we find one that is, if we find an enemy that is stuck to the player, we want to notify them, right? And say, but we also don't want to do this for every single enemy after. So we just throw a break in here. Same thing in here. Break. You know, No. That's not right. We got a little bit more logic to happen. So if we get through all the enemies, then the player can move. So we're gonna do this. If let's hide this guy. Let's do this. Let's do the stupid thing. Let's set up a flag. Var player stuck equals false. We're gonna assume false. We're gonna assume the player is not stuck. And then if they are, we're gonna say player stuck equals true and break. Jump out, right? And then this is gonna jump outside. This we don't need. Invert. Yeah, we can invert. So we're using breaks and continues. Fancy. So I just inverted this if, right? So instead of if this enemy is not on the same player, just continue to the next one, right? So then it reduces the nesting. So we don't have a nested block of code. It just skips the rest of it. A little bit easier to mess with. And then if it is the same, right, it skips the continue and runs the rest, but then it also breaks. And we can get away without doing a break. So if we do player stuck, I guess we don't have to break. We have to check them all. Let's say there's like 100 enemies. Like this is not an efficiency thing, right? So even if we have to check 10, 15, 20 enemies, we only ever set player stuck to be true, right? We can never set it back to false. So if we get through every single enemy and at least one of them has set it to true, that's fine. And iterating a loop of 100 enemies is nothing. If we end up having thousands, then we'll start thinking about optimizing this. But right now, let's save the line of code and not optimize it, and have a nice vaguely flavored beverage. So now here, if the player is stuck, we're going to notify them. We are going to yield. I did. Boop, boop. If they are stuck, notify them. Otherwise, else p. I can't type the thing. That seems to be a recurring theme. Okay, so then if we get through all of the enemies and one of them sets the player to stuck, let the player know, boop, you can't move, and then skip them. Why is that hanging? If none of the enemies make the player stuck, then let the player move, continue on with our day. There we go. This is probably going to want me to turn it into a link. That's why there's a green ... in there. At this point, I don't want to do any link expressions, just because it'll smash it all into one line, and nobody really wants that to happen right now. All right, let's give her a test. Maybe nope. Where? There it is. Why did that disappear? All right. Oh, and we forgot to hide that guy again. So I'm clicking all over the place. You're too scared to move. Oh, yeah. Boop. There you go. All right, so the ghost is going to move on to player 2. Right, 1, 2. Ghost is on player 2. Player 1's going to move. Hopefully we got the... No, we got the skeleton. Player 2's turn. All right. That was fast. Let's see if we can get back to it. Ghost. So you move player 1, get the ghost. All right, we're going to move the ghost on to player 2. All right, so it's still picking. Player 2 did not get to move. Now it's player 3's turn. Okay, something's up. Let's do a player stuck. Notify player stuck. Why did this not? Let's enabled equals true. Maybe. We're going to set up the board. This is, let's consider that part of the board. And then maybe it's the enabled thing, right? Is it active? I think it's active. Because it might be the, oh, yep. So I have a reference to this Text Mesh Pro text UI, right? And I was turning this guy back on and off with code. But then when I was starting up, I was actually enabling and disabling the game object. So these are two different things. This is the game object, and then this is a component. So hopefully this will just disable the Text Mesh Pro text automatically during setup. Yeah, see, no more check mark. And then when we move the skeleton, move the skeleton. Is this, I think this is getting in the way. Is this locking up? Oh, ha! Nope, hit the breakpoint. Turn off the breakpoint. Keep going. We figured it out. Thank you, debugger. We're gonna move player 1 onto the skeleton. We're gonna move Ghost onto player 2. Ah, you're too scared to move. That was kind of fast. 1 second is pretty short. All right, but it works. It works. Let's jump that up to where'd the code go? Notify player to stuck. Let's 2 seconds. Give her a test. Ooh, how's everybody doing tonight? It's been a long day. It's a long Tuesday. Watching a lot of progress bars. Skeleton. Why? Oh yeah, these start in random spots. Ah, you're too scared to move. Perfect. We could probably do some like, fade in, fade out. That'd be a little bit nicer, but I think that's just more of an art pass, Cool. That works. Let's see if we can get someone else to be stuck. All right, player 2. Let's move the skeleton onto player 1. Player 3 moves. Player 4 moves the ghost. Player 4 moves. Player 1 moves the skeleton. I guess you're not going to get stuck. Player 1 moves. Player 2 moves the ghost. Player 2's not stuck. Let's see if we can get someone stuck again. Player 4 moves. All right. There are 2 monsters, so no matter what, player 2 is getting stuck. All right, so we move. Ah, you're too scared to move. Player 2 doesn't get to move. All right, player 3's turn. Move the skeleton. Excellent. What do we want to do next? Let's turn this off and make it a Raycast target. Are these Raycast targets by default? I don't think they are. So being a Raycast target, if it's here, right, we won't be able to click through it, like click behind it, to stuff in the scene, because we're shooting a ray out into the scene from the camera, and if it hits something, we're going to respond. But if it hits a UI element, we don't want that. So let's just make sure horizontal. Yeah, is it extra shots? Extra Raycast target. Boom, off. Raycast target and off, and then let's turn this guy off too. Boom. So now we can't raycast into any of our UI elements. That will be helpful later. Sweet. Done. All right. How about we make it so players cannot make some movement rules, I guess. Rules. Players cannot move onto an occupied space, either other players or monsters, right? players and monsters can move through. Let's combine this. This is game crafting now. So players cannot end their turn on an occupied space, right? So you can move through other players and you can move through monsters. Just let's just go with it. But you can't stop there, right? Monsters, though, because it says players, monsters can move through. Monsters can not end their turn on another monster's space, right? So monsters can move through each other. They can't stop on each other, but kind of the whole thing is they can stop on players and, you know, stop them from moving. Let's get these guys going, right? I think in the future I'm gonna have like safe spots. Like you can't, like a closet, right? You can dive into a closet, and monsters aren't allowed to move into closets because, you know, their thumbs don't work for whatever reason. But you know, future thing. All right, let's save this guy. Let's set up some rules, right? So we set this up in doing a move, right? So this gets moves and returns some options, and then highlights those options, and you get to pick from those options. We need to limit those options right now because we're only moving one unit. Any occupied square is not an option unless you're unless you're a monster. So if it's occupied with another player, that's fine. If it's occupied with another monster, that's not fine. So we need to be able to tell this do move whether or not this game object is a monster or not. And so let's just you know, is player. Yeah. So if it is a player, I think that's the more restrictive, because monsters can move onto players, players can't move onto players. And then because we have, you know, two instances here, we move the monsters first, and we say do move false because we're moving a monster, and then do move true because we're moving a player, right? And then when we get the options, we can loop the options. So here, if we're a player, we're gonna change those options somehow else, because this is Boolean, this is like monsters. Player. Right. Let's iterate these moves. Options for opt in options. All right. Well, name it option for me. If that option, so this is the player. So a player cannot move onto a monster or onto another player, right? If players dot contains any, we're gonna do a little bit of link. We're doing some link. So if any player p.transform.position is the same as option dot option is, what are options? Get moves is vector 3 ins. Okay. If any player's transform position is equal to option, we're going to remove that option. I wonder, can we editing lists is not super fun. So let's try this. Var filtered options equals new list, and then this is going to be the same as get moves, right? Vector 3 ints. Right? And so if not any, if none of the, this is going to be like, oh, do none. All. All right. So if all the players are not that option, then we're going to add the option. Filtered options dot add option. Right. So we're shifting from one list to another list. So a player can't move on to another player's, and a player also can't move on to a monster's. So if it's not a player, so if there are no players in that square and there are no monsters, then we can add it. Let's call it M. E, M, E. We'll stick with the format, right? E enemies, P players. E dot come on. Trans add. That is an add, not an all. All E. That's not an equals. Doing great. Transform dot position. It's not equal to option. There we go. So now the player gets filtered. The player's options get filtered by no other players on that option and none of the enemies are on that option. We add that option. Otherwise, a monster is the same thing except it can't move on to monsters. So we can just yank this guy out. I missed yep. Gotta loop over the options. Boop, 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 boop. Format. All right, so now a monster's options just gets all the other monsters' positions stripped out. So no other monster. So a monster can't get onto another monster's square. So there's no. So to simplify this, let's look at this. We've got a duplicate, right? So if I highlight this, right, this is the exact same as this one. So in both filtering options, you can't move onto a square. If you're a player or a monster, you cannot move onto another monster's square. So let's, instead of doing this in two spots, let's refactor this and pull them all the way out. And we'll multiply iterate our options list, because who doesn't love multiple iterations? We're just going to steal this guy. So if you're a player or a monster, remove all the other enemy positions, right? Yank them out of there. And then this will already have happened. And then this will already have happened. And then this, whoa, look at that. This goes away. So the only time we have to filter is if we're a player. This gets just, one less iteration. I guess we could collapse this. Ooh. I guess we could collapse this up. So if there's not a monster there, if there's a player there, if this is for players and there's a player there, if this is for players and there's not a player there, then you can move there. Ooh. This is getting twisty. I think, yeah. We're like totally pre-optimizing this. So if we are a player and there's another player there, if there aren't any players there, then add it. This is something's gone. Something's gone. So if this is for players, so if this is not for players, and there's not a player there, then you can. So if this is for players, If this is for players and there isn't a player where you want to go, then you can add it. And how do we get this? So I'm trying to get this down to just one, filter options. If this is for monsters, so I want to flip this guy, right? So if this isn't for a player, you know what? That's too much thinking. We're backing out. We're gonna pull the record on this guy. So if this is for a player and the player isn't there, add it. Otherwise, we're going back further. We're multiply iterating. So once we get rid of all the spots that have monsters on them, if we are moving on players, then iterate the options again, remove all the player spots. Let's get that going. And then instead of using options, we need filtered options. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah. Selected coordinate. Okay, so we're selecting. We wait until we select something. Move it to the last selected. Clear. Great. Let's go back up to our main loop. Just double check this. So this should be the same. We don't do anything with the positions. Let's check it. Whew. Now I've got a headache from trying to do Boolean logic with filtering and looping on multiple cases. Totally a good time. That was a lot of rambling. All right. Ooh, look. Okay, so we're moving the skeleton. The skeleton cannot move onto the ghost. You can see he's there, so he can only move here. The player, we messed it up. The player can move onto the ghost. So that's messed up. So now we move the ghost off. Yeah, we got something backwards. So enemies cannot move onto players. No. Why can the ghost move onto this player? Oh, because there's an enemy there. Ghost can't move onto enemies. Good times. Let's see if we can get another situation set up. So I'm moving the skeleton. The skeleton cannot move onto the ghost. Correct. Moving player one. Player one can move onto the enemies. So figuring out the player moves. Players can't move onto enemies. Ooh, let's go. Imagine doing this with like a rules engine and making it, all the hard work up front. So if this is a player, for option, if a player... Hold a second. If we are doing a player move, players are not allowed to move onto enemies. So instead of players, this should be enemies, all transform position. So let's keep it the formatting E. So players cannot move onto enemies. Players cannot move onto enemies. And then this is players nor monsters can move onto monsters. Okay, nobody can move onto monsters. Players cannot move onto monsters or other players. Ooh. Something we refactored ourselves in a circle. Right. This should get rid of all the enemies. This should be players. Oof. Players P. Right. Okay. One more time. Let's say this is a player. Remove all the enemies from the player options. Then, if we are a player, remove all the other players from the options. And then do the options. Right? So, and then false, if this is an enemy, right? Remove all the other enemies, and then this isn't an enemy, so we leave all the players in. That makes sense, right? Right? Sure. Okay. I feel like there's something we didn't set, like the something going on with like selecting highlight moves. Clear the highlights for each cell in options. Everything you pass, just highlight it. Okay, that makes sense. That was in board. Go back to game. And we wait until selecting chord is false. Let's find the usages of it. We want to find where this is true. So, if we're selecting coordinate, we shoot out, hit infos, if the cell info, get component cell, if it's highlighted. Okay, so we're keying off highlights. Well, I feel like I haven't looked at this code in a month. Isn't that fun? And we could flip all these and collapse them, but they're not run super often. This should work. Famous last words. Let's see. Watch some progress bars. Hit play. More progress bars. Let's see what happens. Okay. The ghost. Enemies can move on to players. Bam. Players should not be able to move on to enemies. That's skeleton's an enemy, so I don't know why that guy's not working. The ghost cannot move on to an enemy, right? So the ghost can move off. Player, why is the skeleton not considered an enemy? That's weird. Okay, so we're moving the skeleton. The skeleton cannot move on to the ghost, but the ghost can move on to the skeleton. What is up with that? Let's see if we can get the ghost. Ghost. So the ghost. Now the ghost cannot move on to the skeleton. The player was good. All right. Skeleton. The skeleton cannot move on to the ghost. We're gonna have to put up a checklist for all our conditions. Okay, so now this player can move on to that player. That's not good. All right. Getting notifications. Ooh, there's another one. Hope that wasn't too loud. I apologize for blowing out your eardrums if that was too loud. All right. Let's see. Why can players move on to other players? If all the other players' positions are not the option, then add it. Is this called like somewhere else? Like this is really weird. So for some reason players are able to move on to other players. So like if this is a player, that's true. Debugging is always super exciting. Got a feature in right out the gate. Awesome. And then yeah. Didn't quite get there. Where is enemies do move? All right, false, right? This is false. This is true. Those are the two uses of do move. One more time. Let's run through this. Okay. We only add an option if it is not an enemy space, if all of the enemy's positions are not the option, add it. And then this one, if all of the players' positions are not the option, add it. So why can players move on to other players? Does that have something to do with get moves? Right? This should be pretty straightforward, right? So we're just checking the 4 directions. So we say, all right, here's the coordinate we're starting at. Give me all the directions we can move. Give me all the places I can move. Create an options list. Figure out what the forward is, right? We do whatever the coordinates is plus forward. If that cell exists, add it. Same thing for backwards, left, and right. Okay. So right, right, right. Left, left, left. Back, back, back. Forward, forward, forward. Return the options. That's got to be good. Then we create a new filtered options list. We say for all the options, potentially 4. So we check all the enemies. So if the first enemy's position is not equal to the option and the second enemy's position is not equal to the option, there's only 2 for now, add the option. Great. Oh, does it? So it adds it. That's why. So it can't be. So for players, it can't be a monster or a player. But for monsters, it can't be a monster. And that's where our double iteration happens, right? So one of these positions, like this option, let's say the first one, if it's a player and there's no monster there, we're going to add it because it's not an option, or it's not a player, or it's not an enemy, but it's a player. So we add, we have to check this for each. We got smart, tried to refactor this, and multiply enumerated, and it hurt us. It hurt us. All right, let's go back. Else. So now, cut this guy out. So now we're only going to iterate the options list once. And if it's a player, it can't move on to another player, and it can't move on to an enemy. Let's throw this guy on a new line. Stick with the naming. E. So if we're a player cannot move on to another player, nor can it move on to another enemy. So the option has to be in neither list. Right? If we are not a player, which means we're an enemy just can't move on to another enemy spot. We can move on to a player. So, whew. Logic, reasoning, headaches, good times. Give her a play. Look at some progress bars. Have some fizzy drink. Okay. Enemy cannot move on to the ghost, right? But it can move on to the player. So we're going to move on to that player. Player 1's too scared to move. It's not even. We'll move the skeleton there. All right, this player cannot move on to that enemy, but he can move off of it. Great. Let's move this guy here. We're going to... I probably should have gone closer to that guy. We're going to move that guy there. That guy there. You know what? We're going to get stuck because... Or we can get stuck, right? If we have no options, we can't do anything, right? So I'm going to get player 2. What is this? Player 1 into the corner. See if we can block one of the players in. So we're moving the ghost. Move the ghost there. Should probably write some tests for this. Wouldn't that be fun? All right, let's move the skeleton off. Nope. Too scared to move. All right, so this is moving the skeleton. See, this is tricky because there's only two of each when we move them. But what I'm trying to say is if we get like a player stuck in a corner and there's 2 enemies here, right? That options list is going to be 0 options, and we don't have a case for that. We sit and we wait until you pick an option. So we have to fix that. So if you go to move, so if you're not stuck and you go to move, called do move, and we figure out what your options are here. Do move. So I think we need to split out the logic of figuring out what the moves are, pass them in, and then just doing the move is like, okay, you have an option, do it. So this is all, so you can see like there's no yields in here. This is all just calculation, right? And then the yield and like the functioning of it, the weighting happens here. So let's throw another method in here, private, and this is going to be a list of vector3 ints. Calculate moves, and we're going to give it a game object. Let's we don't need the whole object. We're going to say vector3 int start position, and then a bool is player, right? Bam, and we're going to return a new list of vector3s, right? Just to get it to work. And it's all of this stuff, right? I'm just going to delete that stuff out of there, dump it in there. And then this, we don't need is player, but we do need the object to move. Do we need the object to move? Yes, because we actually do the move in here, right? This is picking and then moving. So let's do a list of, I am not refactoring this the right way, but that's okay. Because I keep breaking it and it's not compilable. And I'm just shuffling code. Cool. Okay, so new list, this is return filtered options, right? And I'm naming stuff all the same. That's okay. This can be start position. All right, so now we calculate moves based on a start position and if it's a player or not, and just return that. And then do move is we just pass the object to move and the options, right? And then we highlight those options, do the selection looping, and then move the object and clear. Okay. Where are we broken? We're broken here and we're broken here. So that tells us we need to moves equals, what do we call it? Calculate moves, and then it's enemies, current enemy, dot transform dot position. Oh, we need to turn that into a vector3, right? What do we do down here? Here we did a vector3 floor to int. Get that guy out of there. Bam. Is player false, right? This is we're figuring out the enemy moves. Bam. And then this do move is just the current enemy and then the enemy's moves. So now we've taken the calculation of doing the move, the calculation of what options the moves are, and we moved it out so that we can do some logic in here. You know, if enemy moves dot length count is 0, you know, if you can't move, you can't move. Yeah. Let's just, only if it's greater than 0. Wow, I cannot type anymore. If it's greater than 0, move the enemy. Otherwise, you skip it. And we're going to do the same thing for the player. Figure out if the player's stuck. If they are stuck, you know, hey, you can't move. Also, player options, calculate moves, and then this is vector3 floor to int players. This is getting very long. Player turn. Dot transform. Dot position. True. I missed a parenthesis in here. Bam. And a semicolon. And then this just becomes player options. And then in here, if player options is equal to 0, not equal to 0, greater than 0, it's greater than 0, do the player's move. Whew, we have not run the code in a while. Need to get it going. Dot count. Contains? Nope. Count. So if the player has an option to move, let them pick, do the move, right? If they don't, we'll just you miss your turn at this point. In the future, they're still going to be able to pick cards and stuff. I think that's probably going to be in next week. We're going to throw some cards in, but I think the getting all the movement rules in this week could be good to help facilitate that. Take a little sip of gently flavored fizzy water. Hit play. Watch progress bar. Oh, that was exhausting. All right. So now these guys are all lined up. We need to set up a static board so we can just test this. Probably be a lot easier. All right. Move these guys closer. All right. So the enemy or the skeleton can move onto either player, right? Or the open spots. Player, let's move him over here. Player 1, or this is the ghost. The ghost can move onto the player, but he cannot move on to the skeleton, right? Because he's an enemy. Let's move him off, and then the player can move onto either open spot, right? You can't move on to that player. Let's see if we can get him stuck. Skeleton, move there, move that player. Let's get the ghost a little closer. Let's move the player here. Move the ghost. All right, so I moved the ghost, and then it skipped this player in the corner, and there we go. Should probably notify the player that you can't move, you're stuck. But the logic's there. That was apparently the hard part. Whew. And we can reuse that fun notify. Where'd it go? It's somewhere in here. That notify text, and then just notify player stuck. Let's refactor this and just call this notify player, right? And give it a string. Give it a message, and then we can say notify text. Notify text.text equals message. Yay. And so now this is a generic. Now this is just, let the player know something, 2 seconds, back you go. So here we're going to steal our you're too scared. So this is like if they're stuck by an enemy. Excuse me. Player stuck by enemy. There we go. So now if the player's stuck by an enemy, notify and be like, you're too stuck. Else we can do the same thing, but there's nowhere to go. Sad face. No, that's bad patronizing. Oh, nowhere to go. So now if they have no options, if their count is 0, do we want to invert this? Whatever. So if they have no moves to make, we'll let them know and move on with our day. And I guess the same thing could happen to an enemy, right? If an enemy gets stuck in a corner between two other enemies or more, if we add more, we can't move. let's do something fun here with this, and say the was it enemy names, current enemy. So like the skeleton is stuck. Sad day. Sad day. All right, so now we have, if enemies have no moves, you skip them. If the player has no moves, or they're stuck by an enemy, you skip them. Whew. I feel like that took way longer than it should have. But let's test it out. Again, probably should set up the board so that we don't have to, go through a whole mess of turns. But turns are pretty quick at this point. Let's not worry about it too much. All right, skeleton goes there. Player 1 goes there. The ghost, move the ghost away. Player 2 can only move there. Let's get player 1 stuck. 2. That was player 2. Player 2 stuck. We're gonna move the ghost. Skeleton. Let's. You're stuck. You're stuck. Skeleton. All right, so I can move you. So player, this guy is not going to be stuck anymore. Dang it. Keep trying. Get a few more players into that corner. All right, player 1, you're going to move there. We're going to move the ghost here. Let's move the player here. All right. Yep. This is like a puzzle in itself. Figuring out how to get something stuck. Ah, you escaped. Move you here. Oh, you got all 3 of them open. All right. Stick the ghost in the corner. Ghost, player. Ghost, player. The next thing probably be, oh look, skeleton can scare anybody. Pass. I don't want to move. Might make this a little easier. Let's stick the skeleton in the corner. Maybe. This is. I'm just. There we go. There's nowhere to go. Player 2 can't move because he's got players and monsters on both sides. Whew. That took too long. Great. Let's see if we can get a pass in. Ooh, let's check. Players cannot enter, move, and occupied space. Monsters can either turn another space. Done. Nailed it. Whew. Boop, boop, boop. Cards. Like, we can do cards next. Be able to get the players out from under. What can we do in a half hour? Yeah, might as well. Let's see if we can get like the basics of cards going, right? Yeah. Or pass. Or do we do pass? Let's do pass. Pass seems like we could do a lot easier. Because pass is probably just going to be a button. UI. Text Mesh Pro button. Pass button. So pass is going to be like, you don't want to move a monster. You don't want to move your player. Pass. Do we have some fun fonts in here? No. All right. Pass is, it's going to be not super fun. Let's tag it to the bottom. We'll slide her up a bit, make her a little taller, get the text a little bit bigger. Doesn't hurt to tweak stuff a little bit. And then we need to hook our game up to it. So where is our UI stuff? Public. I think this is just button. we'll call it the pass button. Right, so now we can show it and hide it whenever we want to allow something to pass. And it'll do the same thing as like clicking somewhere, right? So instead of like clicking a square, we'll just pass. We'll emulate clicking nothing. We'll say pass button dot game. Pass button dot game. Nope. Pass button dots enabled is not what we want, because enabled is like, oh, turns true if the visual element. Set enabled changes the visual element enabled state. All right. Let's go. Let's do that. So now during a turn, when someone has the option of passing, we'll pop that guy up, and then we're gonna do something like public. Ooh, that is not what I wanted. Public void pass turn. This is just going to be the same as if they click. So where is the update? So in here, so like if we're selecting, when someone selects something that's like valid, we can just say selecting false, right? And the last selected cell is going to be, ooh, now we're getting to multiple states, right? So if we don't update, oh, that was weird. If we don't update last selected cell, they're just going to move to wherever. That's not good. But let's try it. We can say pass. Let's go into the button itself after it compiles for 5 minutes. And we're just going to hook up the onClick to game manager. There, game pass turn, right? So now whenever, like, if this is visible, you click it and it emulates clicking on a thing, but then it's going to like assume, you know, we moved someone. So down in our do move, right? This is where it matters, right? So if we switch selecting coordinate back to false, it's going to move the object to whatever the last selected cell is, which would be the last thing, because, you know, we have state in this now. And we gotta what's the word? Words are hard. We need like another flag. So we have a Boolean of, you know, we're selecting something, but there's another condition there. So it's either right now we select something. Adding that second condition means we actually have 3 states. We're either still selecting something, we have selected something, or we've passed. So let's turn this into an enum. That sounds fun. Everybody loves enums. Enum. Selecting state. Right? Yeah. So we'll have selecting. Done selecting. And passed. Right? So now we have 3 states that we can mess with. And then our statefulness is going to be held in, not that guy, that guy. Private selecting state. And then wherever we use this, we're going to switch up. Let's default this. We'll default it in the startup. Selecting state equals done selecting. What do we set it to? That would be selecting would be true. Done selecting would be false. Passed would be also sort of falsy. Let's see where else we're using this. We set it. Pass term. we're going to do selecting state equals past, right? Let's see where else we're using this. So I want to get rid of this selecting coordinate. So if selecting state equals selecting, so if we are selecting, do the selecting stuff, and then selecting state, once we select something, done selecting, right? So it's either we're going to go from selecting to done selecting or selecting to past, right? Those are that's our branch. Where else are we using this guy? So when we do move, we're doing selecting state equals selecting. I keep scrolling up to this. Selecting state. Okay, so now while, instead of selecting state equals false, we do while selecting state is, wait until selecting state is not equal to selecting, right? So we set it to selecting, wow, and then we wait, excuse me, until it changes. If it changes off selecting onto either done selecting, meaning we clicked on something, or past, meaning we passed. Great. And then this is like the actual, this is one line controls moving it. So if selecting state, if it's, so we wait until it's not selecting. So if it is done selecting, meaning we selected something, we're going to do the move. Otherwise, it's passed. Nope, not what I wanted. If we pass, right, we're going to skip over doing the move, clear the highlight, move on with the turn. That sounds reasonable. State, so much fun. Let's see. All right, so now when I click on this, or control click on it, cannot find decision or usages, just delete it. Goodbye. Give her a try. Oh, that rhymed. Awesome. Do some more progress bars. We didn't show our pass button. Oh well. Let's make sure the rest of it works. Oh, didn't hook up the button. So, saved us. Right. Where'd the button go? Did I not make that public? Boop. Button, public, button, pass button. Save. Recompile. Please recompile. Let's see. Let's make a change. There we go. Now it's recompiling. I don't know why. Sometimes Unity just decides to not look at the files and recompile. It should show up in here. Pass button. Am I losing it? Yes? No? Maybe? Come on. Why are you angry? Let me private. Is it a not a button? This is totally a button. See, button. It's a UI element. This is serializable. Yeah. What the heck, Unity? Public. Button. Oh, we want the UI one. We used the wrong button. There we go. So now we should have an import, right? Button. So before the, I don't know what button that was in. Button. What is this? UI. What is this guy? Unity Engine UI button. Unity Engine UI button. Oh, it could have been this one. Unity Engine rendering debug UI. That might have been the button it was assuming. Right. Maybe, I don't know. Long story short, we were using the wrong button. We might still be using the wrong button. Who knows? Yep. So because we're using a different button, there we go. Let's make sure this is. I don't know if this gets rid of the game object or not, but ooh, not equals enabled. Active. Set active. Set active. False. So I want to set the game object that the component is attached to false. Let's set this to true whenever we want to be able to like show it. So if we're doing the move, true. So if you have moves, show it. When you're done, hide it. Same thing. If you have moves, show it. True. If you don't, hide it. Okay. Come on. Ooh. It's getting there. Alright. There's our button. Here's our game manager and pass button. Yay. Pass button. There we go. Starter up. Progress bars. Alright, pass button disappear. Yay. So I can do a normal move, right? So I'm still moving people. Hides when the move is done. Alright, let's say I don't want to move. Like I decide I want to move 0. Click pass. I skip it. Move. Hides. Move. Move. Pass. 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 Perfect. Nobody wants to go anywhere. All right, now that we can pass, let's see if we can corner. We'll corner a ghost and we'll corner a player. I don't think can we corner a ghost? No, because we would need 3. We would need the ghost and then 2 enemies. Let's corner a player. Move you guys. You there. You there. We're gonna pass. Yay. Pass. Pass. I'm moving the player. I think it's this player. Nope, wasn't that player. All right, we're gonna move the skeleton into the corner. You are gonna pass because this is player 2, right? So I'm gonna pass so player 1 can't move. Everybody's screwing player 1. Player 4 pass. Player 4 pass. Player 1 is gonna just nowhere to go. Nailed it. Whew. Done. So we have the pass option, and I think in the future, like I'm imagining putting some cards up. So like you can hold 4 cards and they just kind of pop up on the bottom of the screen for each player. You know, like a nice little fancy UI. We'll just do an image here. Just a piece of UI that will kind of like pop up, right? And then you can like select a card or, you know, do a move or click pass. But I think I'm going to turn pass into a card. And these are really just going to be, the cards will just be buttons so that the player can choose the move they want to do. Great. Design done. All right, you can't move. You can pass. Players and monsters can pass. Moves. Pass. Moving. Moving. Doing like game rules and like board game rules, especially, like because they're like sitting down at a table and playing a board game is always interesting because you can like interpret the rules, and as long as everybody agrees on that interpretation, that's what happens. So just an odd. It feels weird writing rules. Cool. So we got better picking of movement. We got passing. We got notifying the player. What else do we have? I mean, the next thing would be, let's see. And this is the fun part of kind of doing this from the hip is we just make it up as we go. You know, points don't matter. Yeah, the next thing is like cards, right? Cards, or we do art, right? Make a little bit better visual interest in it. Actually build up a skeleton and a ghost. Throw in some cards, pop those up. I think that'd be good. But that's more than 15 minutes of work, and my whole logic brain is made to mush. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good night, right? Let's play a little round. I think we did a good job. I'm out of vaguely flavored beverage anyway. All right, so move the skeleton. Let's move the player. We need win conditions. That's what we need, right? So we're trying to escape. So the idea is you're escaping a haunted house, right, or a haunted mansion, and the board will be set up in like rooms with corridors and maybe the second floor. Maybe I'm thinking like Clue, like you know how it's just one big board, flat board with different rooms. And the players start, you know, on one end of the board, and the front door or the exit is the other end of the board, and there are these monsters strewn about the house that can come sneak around, and the players have to move through the house, you know, kind of stopping each other from going by moving the monsters, and escape the house. So that's the idea. And we need, let's write that down. Board is a big house with rooms. Players start at one end of the board and need to move to the exit on the other end of the board. Why does it keep doing board grid? I mean, that's you know, sounds interesting. Let's add our movement rules. Monsters cannot move onto safe spots. Right, so like our, you know, closet or something. Add that feature in later. Yeah. I'd be like, I'm at a crossroads here. Like, what feature do we implement next? Or do we do a pass on the code? Like, should we clean all this up? There's quite a bit of repetition, especially in here. Like an enemy move and a player move look oddly similar. And I'm coding this in a tiny window for some reason. Why? I just noticed my editor is smashing all that code in the corner. They're vaguely similar. Like they've got this, you know, find the moves, check the number of moves, sort of structure to them, and the player has a little bit more logic. I wonder if we can implement something to get the enemies stuck, right? Like daze them. That's a future feature. But yeah, I think we're good for the night. We'll figure out what we're going to do during the week. Come back next week. Going to try and stream again Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time. And we'll add more features to our game. I think an art pass is necessary, right? it's all well and good that we can move spheres and blocks around on this boring board, but let's add a little visual sparkle next week and make this look like a haunted mansion, a little bit more like a haunted mansion, and work on the board so that we can set up walls and restrict player movement, restrict enemy movement, get a goal like a front door. That'd be nice instead of just we're dancing around on this board. So that sounds like a plan. Thanks for hanging out with me. Subscribe to the channel and get a notification when I go live next week, or if I upload any other random videos of randomness if I ever find time. But again, thanks for watching, and see you next week.